Some stories arrive at the right time and wake you up. There are moments when you do not need more advice. You do not need someone telling you to try harder, be stronger, or stay positive. Sometimes, the only thing that can stop you and force you to look at your life honestly is a story. A story real enough for you to see yourself in it. Painful enough to make you understand that if you keep living the same way, you will lose even more. And strong enough to wake you up. If today you feel tired, stuck, disappointed in yourself, but still not fully ready to change, then do not skip this video. Because after hearing this story, you may no longer want to keep living the way that has been pulling you downward. And sometimes the right story at the right moment can change the direction of an entire life. The story begins with someone who always thought he still had time. There was once a young man who always believed he still had time. Time to study more seriously, time to be less lazy, time to improve his appearance, fix his life, and rebuild himself. Every day passed in a normal way. He stayed up too late for no reason. He delayed the important things. He kept telling himself that next week would be different, next month would be different, next year he would become serious. But the years moved quickly. And the frightening part was that while nothing dramatic had happened on the outside, he was slowly losing himself on the inside. Losing sharpness, losing faith, losing self-respect. He did not fall in one huge moment. He simply slipped slowly and quietly until one day he realized he no longer liked who he had become. The most dangerous thing is not failure. It is getting used to mediocrity. At first, he still felt frustrated every time he procrastinated. He still felt guilty every time he missed an opportunity. He still felt ashamed when he made promises and failed to keep them. But over time, he got used to it. Used to saying tomorrow. Used to choosing what was easy instead of what was right. Used to living below his true ability. And that was the real danger, not one failure, but living in mediocrity long enough that you stop reacting to it at all. He no longer felt like he was falling. Everything simply felt normal. But that normal life was slowly killing the better version of himself that could have existed. Some people do not lose their lives through one tragedy. They lose them by staying too long in a lifestyle that leads nowhere. Then one day, he met someone who forced him to look again. One very ordinary afternoon, he met an old friend again. Someone who had never seemed more gifted than him, never smarter than him, and who had once struggled even more than he had. But now that person was completely different. The eyes looked steadier, the voice clearer, the energy different. Not in a fake, perfect way like social media, but in the way of someone who had quietly rebuilt a life through discipline and action. They talked for a while, and the friend said just one sentence that woke him up. Life doesn't get better on its own. It only gets better when you live differently. The sentence was not poetic, it was not gentle, but it struck the exact truth he had been avoiding. For the first time, he had no excuse left. He had to look at himself. What changed him was not inspiration. It was the right kind of shame. Many people are afraid of shame, but there is one kind of shame that matters. The shame of realizing you have lived too long below your own standards. That night, he went home and could not forget the sentence. For the first time in a very long time, he stopped comforting himself with the idea that things would work out on their own. He saw the truth clearly. He was not failing because he had no opportunities. He was losing because he had been living too carelessly. And that feeling made him decide not to keep living the same way, not to quit, but to stop continuing as the same person. The next day, he began with something small, sleeping earlier, waking up on time, scrolling less, finishing one important thing before the easy things, small but real. And for the first time in a long time, he felt himself being pulled back toward life. Life did not change immediately, but he began to change. The best part is that his life did not transform overnight. No sudden money, no big success, no applause, but he began to change. And that was what mattered. He started feeling a little less disappointed in himself, a little more respect for himself, a little more belief that he could still rise if he stayed consistent. He realized that faith does not come before action. Very often, repeated action is what brings faith back. One morning without hitting snooze, one task finished even when he did not feel like it, one promise kept to himself. Those small things did not make life explode, but they change the person living that life. And once the person changes, the direction of the whole life begins to change too. Then he realized he had wasted more than time. The thing that hurt him most was not that he had wasted a few years. What hurt most was that he had wasted his trust in himself. Every time he procrastinated, every time he broke a promise to himself, every time he chose what was easy over what was right, he was not only losing time, he was losing self-respect. And that was even more dangerous, because when a person no longer believes their own words, it becomes very hard to build a strong life. That was when he understood why so many people never rise. Not because they lack potential, but because they keep proving to themselves that their own promises mean nothing. This story woke him up to a truth. If you want to change your life, you first have to become someone you yourself can trust again. When you live differently, everything around you begins to change too. After some time, other people began to notice that he had changed. Not because his appearance transformed overnight, not because money suddenly started pouring in, but because his energy was different. The way he showed up in life was different. People could feel that he was no longer living like someone who had already given up. He did not talk endlessly about goals, but his actions became clearer. He complained less, delayed less. He no longer used tomorrow as his favorite excuse. And that was when he understood something huge. Life does not change when you say you want it to. It changes when the way you live every day no longer looks like your old self. That is the moment you truly begin walking away from the life you used to hate. This story does not say you must become perfect. The most beautiful thing about this story is that it does not ask you to become perfect. He still had tired days, still had moments when he wanted to return to old habits, still doubted himself sometimes. But now he no longer saw those moments as proof of failure. He understood that real change is not never being weak. Real change is when you are weak and still do not abandon yourself. And maybe that is why anyone who hears this story has to look at their own life differently. Many people do not rise, not because they are too broken, but because they demand instant perfection from themselves. They expect to feel strong immediately, be different immediately, fix everything immediately. But the truth is, if you live a little differently every day, you are already no longer living the old life. After this story, don't go back to living the same way. If after hearing this story you feel something go quiet inside you, then maybe you understand now. The scariest thing is not failure itself. The scariest thing is continuing to live in a way that makes you lose yourself little by little. This story is not here to make you emotional for a few minutes and then let you forget. It is here so you no longer want to return to the way you have been living. If today you still have time, use it. Do not wait until you lose too much before you wake up. And if you need a place to return to whenever you feel yourself sliding back, stay with this channel. Because here, we are not only looking for motivation, we are learning how to stay awake enough not to waste our lives again. If you enjoyed this, please click the subscribe button below. I'd really appreciate a like and a subscription to support the channel and help you catch even more great videos in the future. Thank you so much.